Welcome back to the channel, and this video is proudly sponsored by FS Academy, and they're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 with their all new 30 mission training pack called Interceptor, which is designed for flying IFR like a professional and created by a real world airline captain. This is the most authentic and immersive instrument flight experience you can get. And when you're in VR, it really feels like the instructor is right there beside you. You can learn VOR and NDB navigation, learn how to master that ILS. So I'd highly recommend that you check out FS Academy, and this new range of mission packs is coming very soon for MSFS 2024. Moza are at it again, and this time they've got a new Force Feedback Yoke. So welcome back to the channel, folks. Pull up a chair because we're going to go deep into this and check out this new Force Feedback Yoke. Before we go any further, just to say Moza did send this across to me because I've been testing it for a number of weeks now, and the version that I've got is a prototype essentially along with the software, so keep that in mind in this review because I'm making this video ahead of schedule. So the base, as you can see, is made of aluminium alloy, and there's no doubt about it, the quality is very high-end indeed. Some of the switches are metal, as you can see here, and have a very nice tactile feedback, very satisfying. Others are more plasticky, and I think really that's fair enough since they are keeping the cost down here, but it's high quality where it counts. Notice that we don't have a yoke attached. That is the party piece of this Moza yoke system, because you can quickly take it off with a quick release function and put on a new style yoke. This is the yoke that we've got for this review, and I'm guessing over time there may be different style yokes as well. And the first thing that really hits you straight away, apart from the really nice quality, is the amount of buttons on this thing. It is absolutely a dream, especially for us VR users, with two hat switches on both sides of the handles. Thank you for doing that, Moza. Really appreciate that. And this yoke can support up to 34 inputs, including access to button mapping, and you can easily switch mapping modes as well using the Moza cockpit software, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Very configurable, and honestly, this is the kind of thing that we really need, because you can never have enough bindings. You really can't. So with the yoke, you get a power lead, a USB to connect to your PC, and that's pretty much it. You plug it in, download the software, and that's it. And this is the quick release function. Look at that, straight onto the shaft of the yoke, which is all metal, and you are good to go. In terms of the travel, well, it's got 150 millimeters distance. I'll show you that in a minute and compare it to the CLS60. And the roll axis delivers a continuous torque of 9 Newton meters, while the pitch axis can produce a peak push and pull force of 210 newtons. That's pretty decent, and it has potential to faithfully simulate the dynamic handling and responsiveness of a real aircraft. Now, I think it goes without saying that the base has high fidelity Hall effect sensors, and yeah, you'll see it's just so smooth and responsive when we go for our test flight in VR using the Quest 3 mixed reality in just a moment. So what do you think about the looks of this new yoke by Moza? I personally think it looks fantastic, and it looks purposeful, it looks desirable. Of course, with all those buttons and switches, it's probably not quite as realistic, but I think that gives you a lot more flexibility, especially for VR users that need all those bindings. But let me know in the comments below your thoughts. So here's a comparison shot of the massive CLS60 by FlightSim.com. My favourite yoke of all time. The force feedback is phenomenal. And look at the travel distance. It's actually pretty damn good. Keep in mind that the shaft of the yoke of the CLS60 starts quite far out to begin with. There's not a massive difference between the two. And comparing this to, say, something like the Bravo, there's just no comparison at all in terms of the longer travel. Anyway, I think it's now time to go for the VR flight test portion of this review. As you can see here, it's now attached and mounted to my Doff Reality H2. Doing its self-test there, very fancy, and shows just how smooth those motors are. In terms of those green lights, I personally am a massive fan of that. I think it looks fantastic, I really do, and very purposeful indeed. So let's now jump into the sim in VR and I'll give you my flight test. Here we go. Right then folks, so it's now time for the flight test and you've no idea how long it took to get this set up. And hopefully you can see this okay. I'm using the mixed reality of the Quest 3 to show the Moza yoke, and it might look a bit wobbly on the view at times, but this is the best way I can show it and stay true to the channel being VR. It looks great in the Quest 3, by the way. It doesn't look wobbly at all, but I notice sometimes on the footage it looks a little bit dodgy. So I've got everything mapped here, and we're going to take this beautiful Just Flight Warrior out of Wickenby for a flight test to show you sort of the features and functions and how it feels in practice. So here we go. As you can see here, hopefully I've got everything bound, so battery will come on. There we go. Cockpit comes alive here. Very nice. I love how it's bathed in this sort of green light here. We won't need the landing gear obviously today because this is a fixed landing gear, but you have that option here. I've got my flaps all set, even my magnetos. It took a while, admittedly, to set this up. Bit of a pain, but we got there eventually. So beacon on, and we're going to put the fuel pump on and make sure that our mixture is fully rich. Everything is where it should be. We've got our trim here, and by the way, I'm using the cockpit axis for left and right, forward and back, which is very useful. And then for my right hat switch, I love how we've got two here. That's to switch to my external view, and then I've got the axis here set up for looking outside and then back into the cockpit again. This is my elevator trim, my rudder trim, aileron trim this side as well, and that's the ATC menu. So I just love, there's so many different options here, so many different buttons you can bind. Very, very cool indeed. Anyway, so I'm going to keep this view like this just so you can see the yoke in action. We're now going to switch on our magnetos, turn them on, and hopefully, with a bit of luck, we'll get going. Clear prop. Listen to that. Beautiful. Actually fires into life here. So I've messed around with the software, and I'll just show you some of the features here, but it's still work in progress at the time of this recording. I'm currently just testing this out and getting a video ready for when it releases. So I'll put a note now on the video if that's changed quite a bit, and if so, I might even do a separate video of all the settings that I'm using if you're interested. But there is a wealth of options, of course, as you'd expect, with vibration through the yoke when on the ground, in the air, the feeling of the forces, depending on the airspeed, the rumble of the gear, the flaps, everything you'd expect really from a force feedback yoke. This does have it, and as I say, we're going to test this out. And I must admit, I do like the Moza software. The way it looks is very nice. I just wish there was some more presets, because not everyone wants to tinker around and mess around, you know, and spend days getting their settings dialed in. Anyway, right, so we're going to put our pitot heat on now. I'll do that again in case you didn't see it. And that is corresponding there. Very nice. These buttons, they feel really nice. I just love how they're metal. Feel very substantial, really good quality, as is this feeling of the yoke. The casing's all metal. Even though this is hardened plastic, kind of doesn't almost feel like it is. It does feel a bit here, but just where it counts, like this here, this has got a nice feeling. The switch, the hat switches, probably, I mean, they could look better. I think they look a little bit plasticky, admittedly. But no, and of course the overall feeling of the yoke as you push it in and out. I'll just put that yoke on as well, as you can see. There we go, look. It's a decent amount of throw. And yeah, it's pretty nice. The axis I'm using is default. I've noticed how it's sort of very gradual to start with, but it gets a lot more sensitive as it gets to its full range of travel. but you've got 90 degrees here, and it does feel really smooth. And I will say right now, guys, this feels smoother than the CLS 60. That's one thing this definitely does better at, and that is the smoothness of the roll axis. There's just no cogging, there's no notchiness. You don't feel, this feels very, very smooth. But there is some things the CLS 60 does much better, of course, as well. We'll go into all that as we go through our flight. Right then, let's get cracking. By the way, I'm using SimXR here to show you this mixed reality. Apologies if you can see my slippers, but never mind. We like to fly with slippers. Right, I'm in my motion rig, so I'm just going to put motion compensation on, guys. Hang on a second.
Motion compensation activated.
There we go. I'm going to find a runway here. Now, I'm going to leave real world weather on, and that's very brave of me today. It's a bit windy. In fact, it's very windy today, and it's very cloudy, but hopefully the weather will provide some breaks in the cloud. I can't believe the FPS we're getting here as well, considering I am running ultra settings in 2020 in the Quest 3. Right, so nav light on, strobe light on, beacon is on, fuel pump is on, battery on, pitot heat is also on, flaps set, 1 degree there. We've got some trim in as well. You can see there the trim's working very nice. One thing I don't like at the time of this recording, again this could change for the full release, is I'm not feeling any hardware trim. That is, I'm not feeling the forces being relieved from the yoke as I pitch, as I use my elevator up and down. That's a really important feature that I hope they can get sorted. Again, if they have sorted that, I'll let you know right now with a little description. So, wow, I am dancing on the rudder pedals here quite a bit. Very bumpy runway, and we are airborne. She wants to fly. I'm trying to look down here the best I can so you can see me using the yoke. Flaps up, I can feel that vibration as the flaps going up, very nice. And if I had the gear, I'd obviously switch that up as well. Yeah, there's just so many things I love about this yoke. Even over the CLS 60, such as all of these buttons. I think, yeah, it's one thing I really missed when I moved from the Bravo to my CLS 60 is just the lack of switches and buttons. And it's great how it's, you know, feels, you've got a very authentic feeling here of the gear handle. We've gone straight into cloud here, so I've got to be very careful. So in terms of the vibration, I'm really feeling the difference in the engine tone. So if I take the engine right back here, there's more vibration through the yoke now. And I can also feel it's pulling back a little bit as well, because you do have simulated airflow over the elevator. And then as soon as I throttle back up again, the vibration kind of smooths out a bit more, so that's really nice. Now in terms of, as I say, the roll, it's just so smooth in this thing. It feels incredibly smooth. Oh, it feels so nice. Yeah, that's really smooth. And actually, let's just gain some airspeed here. I can already feel that it's just a little bit harder to turn left and right, so that's nice. I think that could be done a bit better. Need to trim down as well. But I can feel some resistance there. Of course, it's only a Warrior. Like, say if I was flying a Boeing, you know, 737 or something, a massive airliner, then an Airbus or something. Well, maybe not an Airbus because it's more fly-by-wire, but something a bit more mechanical, you'd probably feel that sort of change in air pressure. But you can even feel that with the Warrior as well, which is very, very nice. Okay, fuel pump off now. Keep the pitot heat on today, I think, with this weather we've got going on. So looking out here, this is MSFS 2020 if you're wondering. And I'm recording this, by the way, in early February. This video might not go live until probably March, and by then we're going to have some updates, hopefully, to 2024, particularly with Sim Update 2, which will hopefully be in beta by now. If so, you've probably already seen some videos of that. But time's recording, 2020 is definitely the better sim for VR still, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. It really does. So we're going to try a stall now, something that's a bit scary actually in a motion rig, and I've got my phone on my lap as well, so I'm going to be really careful here. So one thing that you can't do at the time's recording, as I say again, is as I'm pushing the trim up, I'm not really feeling the forces being relieved with this yoke. That is a big deal. That's a really important factor that needs to be fixed. I'm confident, well I'm hoping anyway, Moza will fix that either before this yoke is released or after in a software update. That's one thing that really does set this apart from this LS60 and Brunner yoke as well, is say when I'm sort of feeling the pressure, I can relieve that using the trim, and that's how you do it in real life. But at the moment that doesn't seem to be working so well, but I do think they can get that sorted out. There we go then. So I'm kind of trimming back here. I'm feeling the forces. There's definitely some vibration, and we're just gonna be careful here. I'm just gonna do a little sort of sedate stall. I could feel the vibration of the yoke, but again, at the moment that's quite subtle. I feel that should be better, that should be improved, hopefully with time. But I can see where that's going. I can see what they're doing with it, and I reckon the power is there with this thing, because it's a pretty powerful yoke in terms of what it can achieve with the vibration and the forces. They just need to get it working in the software. I think that's the only thing that lets this down at the moment, but again, that could change prior to release, and if it has, I'll either add in a little bit now to let you know, or I'll put something in the video. And if you haven't seen that, then that means it's still the same. I love how I can change this and then put on a different yoke, which I think is such a great idea. I love all of these buttons and how they feel really nice most of the time. Some of them are a little bit plasticky, like this magneto switch. Flat feels okay, this feels okay. It's mainly really this. These buttons here, the switches, are all metal, very nice. These feel good as well. So it's just really mainly this that feels a little bit on the plasticky side, but the overall quality is absolutely right up there. And I just love how I can take this yoke off. I could switch it for a different, perhaps more GA style yoke. So this serves two purposes. So that's really, really cool. So together with that, the force feedback, the software, which is at the moment a bit of a niggle for me, but I do like the look of it. I just wish it had better presets, and I think over time this is going to be a very, very good proposition for most of you out there. This makes a lot of sense. Do a nice lazy roll here. It just feels so smooth. That is one of the big selling points of this yoke for me, is how smooth it feels. Really, really nice. There's no cogging whatsoever. Now with the LS60, there is some cogging with that, but a lot of that depends upon the software and what preset you're running. There's been times when that yoke has felt very smooth, but even at its most smoothest setting, it's not as smooth as the Moza yoke, definitely not. And I just think this looks really cool. I really do like this, very much so, and I can almost forgive it for some of the sort of teething problems at the moment. Right, so I've just found an airfield over here to our right. We're just setting up for a downwind, and we'll come in for a landing, and I'll give you sort of my thoughts on how that feels before we wrap up this review. So again, fuel pump on, and after a while you probably won't even need mixed reality for this. You'll get used to where all these dials are. It's amazing how good your muscle memory can be once you've done this a few times, but I must admit, if you can use mixed reality, then it's an added bonus, because I do like looking at this yoke. It's a very attractive, very desirable looking device, isn't it? With Moza on the side there. It feels good, very comfortable. I like these sort of like thumb rests here. It's just a thought of everything, even this grip. It's just great. And even here, I'm not sure if you can see, probably not, but there's some buttons on the actual yoke itself. What a drab day in the UK. My goodness me. Doesn't half look beautiful though. Using DLSS 4 in the Quest 3, 50 frames per second, as you'll be able to see because I'm recording this from the Quest. I'll just take the FPS counter off there, and as you can see, we're getting some very nice frame rates, and we're just on a base at the moment. Got fuel pump on, P-Total still on, beacon and strobe looking all good. Put some more flaps in now. Right, so we're now going to go on finals here. I'm crabbing into the wind a little bit, and hopefully be able to see some of my movements. I'll keep looking down best I can, because you won't be able to see the yoke perfectly, I know, because the way that the Quest 3 records sort of zoomed in. But here we go then, we're on finals. So again, I can feel the vibration has changed as I'm moving throttle. It's very nice. The vibration doesn't feel quite as realistic as the Silo 60, but again, that could change in software. I'm actually feeling a bit of turbulence there as well. It's fighting me here as I'm sort of on the approach and crabbing into this wind. This is actually a very good example. I'm feeling all of that there. Just love it. Absolutely brilliant, this. I'm trying to look down but also look at the runway, so hopefully you can see some of the yoke here as I'm coming in to land. Oh yeah, that feels good. That feels good. Oh, that was interesting. We just hit what was like a microburst there or something. We just really started going down. And again, wow, it's yeah, very, very windy today. So giving me a workout here. Sorry if you can't see the yoke, guys, but I'm trying to sort of do both at the same time. Bit of a long landing here. And there we go, we've made it. That was very windy. And again, I felt sort of the touchdown, but it was a little bit subtle. I think it could do with being a little bit more powerful. Sure, you can change all that in the software, no doubt. And just another thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on the grass. I'll be able to feel the change. It's quite smooth at the moment. Oh, now we're on the grass. You won't be able to probably see that, but I can feel some very sort of distinctive thumps and vibrations from the yoke once again. Very cool. Anyway, I think that'll do for this part of the review. It's time to sum up what I think about this Moza yoke and whether this is right for you. So there we are, folks. That is my review of this new force feedback base and yoke system. I think Moza are absolutely, again, doing incredible things for the flight sim crowd. And this has the potential to be the best force feedback yoke on the market, especially if you consider that the base is going to cost £699 in the UK, but of course you're going to need a yoke handle, which will also cost an additional £149. For force feedback, that's pretty good value for money. But it's not all good news, unfortunately, because at the time of this recording, there's a few niggles, such as the weak vibration and dynamic force. I think needs tweaking. Also, I feel things like the stall characteristics definitely need some work, as does the telemetry in general. And I think there should be some more preset options in the software to get people up and running. When it compares to the likes of the Silo 60, well, I think there is some work to do here in terms of making it feel very realistic. The big deal for me is the lack of trim force. So that has to be changed. And hopefully by the time this video goes out, that is something that has already been worked on and sorted. But I must admit, this is a very exciting proposition from Moza. As I've been testing it through the many weeks now, giving them feedback, I've got hope that they're going to solve some of these little quirks and some of these issues, and I hope that the forces will get stronger and more believable over time. But if they do all that, then this has a potential of really making a lot of rival yokes look a bit silly, quite honestly. And this is probably going to be my daily driver yoke for the foreseeable future. Anyway, let me know what you think about this new yoke from Moza. Very intriguing times, I must say. But for now, thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care and bye for now.